you sit and think about what you guys are going through, which is the surrogacy process, and you see how supportive and helpful and loving your partner is, during that time of, carrying someone else's baby. For me, it just really made me feel so much, love for him, and that I have a good partner that supports me and, shows he cares and loves me.
Welcome to the Surrogacy Scoop, a podcast brought to you by Patriot Conceptions, where we demystify the world of surrogacy from the clinical, family, and surrogate perspective. I'm your host, CJ, and on today's episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with the very first guest on the Surrogacy Scoop for a second time, Sobeida, who last time we spoke worked as the Surrogate Admission Manager at Patriot Conceptions and is a 3-time surrogate mother. Today, we are also joined by her husband, Anthony. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited to learn more about both of you today. This is the first time that we've had a couple on the podcast, so I feel like you will have a lot of very interesting insights that our audience will be excited to learn about. Maybe, Sobeida, I know a lot about you, and if our audience has been listening the whole time, maybe they know as well, but do you maybe just want to introduce yourself and kind of how you got into surrogacy, your journey into this?
Yes, so my name is Sobeida. I do work for Patriot Conceptions. I have completed 3 surrogate journeys myself already. All of them went by very smooth, no major, nothing, no complications really with, the process. And
Awesome. A nice refresher for everybody who maybe listened to our first episode. But let's just jump right in. Let's learn about you guys as a couple. So how did you guys meet and how long have you been together?
Well, we met online 2013.
yeah, we met on Facebook. So it's kind of funny because, a lot of couples they meet each other in person, but it is actually common nowadays that you meet, online. There's dating apps nowadays and whatnot, but we did meet on Facebook.
Yeah, we actually grew up in the same neighborhood, in the same area. We knew a lot of the same people, but we never ran into each other on the street. But online it happened, so yeah.
Yeah, actually, our brothers, our younger brothers, because I'm the oldest and he's the oldest. So our brothers actually they knew each other before, and so it was just kind of weird that we know all the same people. Our brothers knew each other growing up together, but me and him, we never knew each other or ever ran into each other. So I'm wondering if maybe the age gap. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of how we met, and it's just crazy because, like I said, we know all the same people, and we grew up in the same small neighborhood, and it's just crazy that we never ran into each other, growing up or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm just a few years older, so it's not that big of a difference.
That is so interesting. That is such a good story. And I think if I remember correctly, are you both of you from SoCal then?
Yes, from Riverside.
Okay, cool, very cool. That is so funny that your younger siblings were friends and knew of each other, and then you guys just did it, past kind of like that. That's so awesome. And obviously, I'm sure this is a pretty deep subject that we don't need to get into too much, but the internet connects us in so many ways. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing this podcast had it not been for all the different kind of weird connections we can make these days. So that's really cool. And I feel like really fits into the, a lot of the messages that we tackle on this podcast about unconventional family building. And maybe could you tell us, I know you have a family of your own, but could you tell us maybe a little bit about how your life was like before Subaida's surrogacy journeys, and then afterwards I'll ask you what was it like afterwards.
Before, just normal life, pretty busy. Just we have 2 boys together, Aries and Apollo. So just parenting, school, work, real busy at work all the time. So just daily routine, same thing. Just creating a family, taking care of the family, raising our kids, and yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously that makes total sense. Maybe too, what was the decision-making process like for both of you going into the surrogacy journey? Obviously, Subeida was going to be the one physically doing it, but it does demand a lot of the people around her and her support networks. Maybe what was that decision-making process like for the both of you?
So at the beginning, I really wasn't on board because I really didn't know all the facts. pretty much wasn't educated on surrogacy and how it worked. So I really didn't want her to do it at first until we started watching videos, doing some research and getting some info on it. And then finally I was on board. I said, I think there's something we can do because I'm gonna be here helping you as well. So yeah, but at first I didn't want her to do it. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Uh,
You have to, educate your partner. Well, educate, just the whole experience of it and the process of it. Because, right away, I think a lot of husbands think that we're using our own eggs, kind of like the traditional surrogacy and not gestational. So I had to show him that there's a difference between the two. The traditionalists, they use, yeah, the mom's eggs, and gestational is it's already an embryo from the other parents. So I had to basically show him pretty much all the facts of what the difference was for him to understand, and then just kind of wait and see, where he was at with going forward with me.
Mhm. That's a good point you bring up as well. I think I had a conversation a couple weeks ago. I think it's actually the podcast after this, so a little bit of a spoiler. But we were interviewing a mom of somebody who was a surrogate, and her initial concern was just about the physical aspects of it, especially having a family of your own. Obviously being pregnant is such a physical demand on your body, and so going through it again kind of in this altruistic way, I imagine that that was a big part of the concern. It just, what will that mean for your relationship, and how will that impact your day-to-day life and your family life?
Hmm.
yeah, for sure.
So maybe take us back to that first conversation that you had about potentially becoming a surrogate mother yourself. What was that conversation like? How did you approach it, Sobeda?
Well, I just let him know that I had talked to his cousin's wife about what she was doing, which was surrogacy. And I told him, that's so cool. I think that's interesting. And I did tell him, I think I remember I wanted to do this, but I didn't qualify back then because, I didn't have a child then. And so I just let him know, like, I think I want to revisit that and just kind of see if, I qualify. And then I guess we can go from there. Like he said, he did say, like, what? No, I don't think so, And, while putting my application to even see if I qualify, then we went down the road as to, looking up the process and everything, and also asking the in-law questions about, how things go and whatnot. And also, same thing with his cousin, like, how do you feel with your wife doing it? So it was just kind of, it just came about that way. And I did bring it up to him that I think that's something that I want to do if I do qualify. And he just said, we'll see, basically, like, if you do, and then we still need to talk about it. So that's just kind of how the conversation came up with me doing surrogacy.
And I know you mentioned earlier that you did some research about, what surrogacy is to kind of get more comfortable with the idea of it. What were some of the things that you read, or some of the things that you researched that kind of made your decision a little bit easier? Or, maybe just made it easier to understand what Sobeida was actually going to be going through?
Pretty much the information that I got from my cousin and his wife, because I believe she did have one journey. So, and it went pretty smooth. There was no difficulties, there was no issues. So that made me feel pretty good. And my cousin said, yeah, man, just be there for her, take care of her, make sure she takes medications, of course. Man, just have her take it easy and just hop her out through the whole process, and she guys should be good to go. So that really helped me a lot mentally as well. So kind of prepared me for the journey with her. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, about having the personal connection through these conversations, and obviously started the tone right off with Subeda being my first interview. So many of the people involved in the surrogacy world get involved through a family member or a friend or somebody that is close to them. And having that community, or just the people that you can go to with these questions. Obviously, surrogacy is not something that everybody knows about, or, a lot of people have personal connections to or experience with. So I imagine
Mhm.
having your cousin and his wife there made it just a little bit easier. And like you said, kind of gave you the framework for how or what your role was going to be going through all of this as her partner.
Yeah, very. They're pretty much on the front line. They've been through it, experiences everything, I believe. So getting the information from them, man, it helps a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you maybe kind of go down the journey as Sobeida was progressing more and more through her first surrogacy journey, what were some of the things that maybe surprised you about the experience itself from the perspective of being her partner?
All the medication, whole lot of medication, especially at the beginning. Oh yeah. So I was like, yeah, it kind of tripped me out a little bit. I was like, wow, like, that's a lot. Yeah, mainly that.
Maybe because too on the medication, my hormones were like super crazy. I'm not saying I was like this raging person, but you're taking you're taking more than what you produce, and it causes a lot of highs and lows. So it's like, my moods were definitely, my mood swings are definitely a little bit stronger than normal. So I think with him knowing like, dang, you have to be on this medication, like, oh my God, like, was that the medication talking, kind of thing. I think that was
Yeah, you turn into a Hulk sometimes.
a little baby Hulk. No, it's kidding. Yeah, so I think that's what he means by, like, the medication.
Yeah, that makes total sense, especially too going into it for the first time. I imagine that, you understand what you're kind of signing up for, but actually going through it is a completely different experience. And so, not only are you going through all of these things physically, but it's also taking a toll on your personal life and can impact a relationship. And I think that's why this conversation, especially highlighting how you've done it successfully 3 times now, I think is really important and really valuable, especially for people who are kind of like the both of you were at the beginning, very interested in the potential of doing surrogacy, but don't really know that much about it, haven't, or potentially don't have those family connections to go and talk to.
Yeah, it is. It is scary. It was scary at the beginning before I got some information because there's always people out there with negative comments and saying, "Well, I know somebody this happened to them," or "You could, you know, have medical issues," so on and so on. So there is a lot of negativity out there as well that kind of gets into you and kind of messes you a little bit mentally. So it's always good to get your facts straight first and go from there.
But that is why, medical screening, especially with the fertility clinics, is very important. Also, your previous pregnancy records, your history of your pregnancy. That's why that part is important because obviously, like I've said before, if a woman has had, a history of pregnancies and complications and high risk, of course you will qualify because that's not what the intended parents or the fertility doctors want to do is put your health at risk, if you've had that sort of background. That's why it's always good, when someone has, a really good background of, carrying pregnancies with just normal, smooth pregnancies with no complications. So I think, yeah, that a lot of negative comments we heard in the beginning, and it didn't it didn't make him want to be on board any more than his initial, thoughts was, "No, I don't think so." And, hearing people's negative comments, which is why my first journey, I kinda did keep it to ourselves just because also, I'm on the medication and, you start thinking and your hormones are like, up and down, and it just starts to make you feel like, "Oh my god, like, yeah, something can happen to me," or but that's normal with carrying your own children, Unfortunately, a lot of women have, complications with their own pregnancies and, that even cause death sometimes after delivery. So, a lot of those things I didn't want to hear, it was just scary going through it. So, yeah, that's what he means by there was a lot of negativity. When I did express my thoughts of doing it, I got a few negative comments, and it was just something that, obviously that scared us and we didn't want to hear. But so then we did kind of going through with my first journey, it was just kind of like we kept it to ourselves in a way just to kind of, see how everything goes and just to, prepare ourselves as well, that it's not going to be such a positive daisies and sunflower journey, like especially with other people's thoughts and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, the health risk piece that you brought up and, not wanting to hear that, that is very, I feel like that's really crucial to a lot of this and kind of what makes surrogacy and this kind of alternative family building so people have opinions on it. People feel really strongly one way or another just because it isn't the norm. And just like you said, going through it yourself, I totally understand why wanting to keep that part of your life private or just more personal between the both of you and, immediate family, whoever else needs to know, because yeah, you don't want to have your ear filled with things that are questioning your journey. And I think something we talked about on the first episode that we did, Sobeida, is how much empathy that you brought into this experience. You wanted to be able to help other women build a family that wouldn't have been able to otherwise, and holding that message so true and so, I guess, prominent throughout all of your journeys. Hearing that negative talk, I imagine, would make things a lot more challenging and just make it, you know, that kind of doubt when you know that you're doing something in your heart of hearts that is good and going to help out other women can be really challenging and just, again, not something that you would want to deal with. So maybe as we kind of continue down our journey of the different phases of your journey, kind of talked about the pre going through the screening process, getting involved with it for the first time. Maybe once you are pregnant with the, URGC, what was that like as her partner? Was there anything that kind of surprised you about the journey itself when she was pregnant?
Not really. Pretty much seemed like just a normal pregnancy. I would go with her all the time to her appointments, even her transfer deliveries. I was there. Pretty much took care of her like it was our baby, which I knew in my heart it wasn't, but still, I want to give that love and care to the baby and to her and make sure she's healthy, doing everything she's supposed to be doing. And yeah, it just felt like just a regular pregnancy, to be honest. Yeah.
Mhm. I think that's why the screening process is so important, making sure that there are people around that have been there, at least through a previous pregnancy, if not a partner like you are. Um, that is so important, and just being able to physically be there and go to all the appointments and take care of her as if it was your own child, even though obviously it's not. That is such an important part of it. And I think that is what intended parents would, obviously, that is what they would be doing if they could, and you kind of taking on that role and being there, I imagine, made the experience better for Sobeida and then also made the experience better and more comfortable for the intended parents as well.
Yeah, I think support system is number one. Like you need a backbone, you need a good support system. I know that's one of the questions you guys asked at the beginning, which
During the grade those stuff for the girls, yeah, to make sure, who's gonna be there to support you. Do you have a partner, family, close, that it's gonna help you through the journey? And that support, just there's just so many things that go into support, the word support. So we always make sure, the surrogates that are applying, they have a good support system. Especially if they're in a relationship or they're married and they have a partner, your partner's support is number one because your partner is, like how he says, pretty much your backbone is gonna help you through everything.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And as we talked about too, surrogacy is tough, or maybe tough isn't the right word, but very demanding physically and emotionally. And so, yeah, obviously you need that physical support there. As you kind of went through each of your journeys, was there anything that, or any kind of routines that you fell into that, this is journey number two or this is journey number three? Were there things that you kind of did differently from time to time or any routines that you fell into?
not really. I would say by her second journey, I did take a little more time off work to be with her, make it to the appointments, help her with the kids, take the kids to school, pick the kids up. Because we already experienced, so I would, yeah, take a lot more time off work to be there to help her more. Because I'm already know what she needs her rest. I know what to expect now. So yeah.
And I literally fell into the routine of letting it take over. because as mothers, working moms, that you work, you have to still do household, you know take care of the kids and do everything in between. So of course, when when I knew I was starting a journey and I had my transfer, I knew I could take a break and relax because he was going to take over. And
I gotcha.
that's what, like, that's the kind of support you need because pregnancy is not easy. And especially with surrogacy injections, the multiple appointments you have in the beginning with IVF, that's a lot, until you're pregnant and you just start going on like a regular pregnancy, seeing an OB every 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, up until you deliver. So I definitely fell into a bad routine of just letting him take it all, to just do it all. And I'm just so tired today. I think
By the third journey, you were milking it, but
yeah, I was like, I already know what to expect. He's gonna handle it. I don't have to do too much, And to me, that was great. I always fell into that habit where I'm just like, he's gonna take over now, and I'm just gonna be pregnant.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, I think that really speaks to the strength of relationship that you have and the ability to rely on each other, but very specifically in this, surrogacy world that we're talking about, that somebody needs to be there to physically help you. And having that and that strong of a relationship, it's really beautiful. And it's absolutely coming through with how you're talking. Maybe diving into that a little bit, how do you think that you got to this point in your relationship where you were able to be there for each other in multiple different ways, especially through the lens of surrogacy?
well, she does pay me by the hour. Oh, and stripping.
To be that, I would just like to say that, I mean, obviously, we're partners, we're in a relationship, we're in a marriage, we love each other. But I think what helps most of all is that we really are like best friends. Like, we just have like a really good relationship. Of course, not everything's, perfect and whatnot. We have, certain struggles here and there, but I think what helps is, like I said, we're best friends and, that just makes the relationship and everything easy and, like, just we come together when we see each other struggling with certain things and it's not even something we have to address verbally. We just see it and then we're just there, for each other. So I think that helps a lot, which is, us being on the same page about certain things. And, we talk a lot about everything, our daily lives, of course, the process and work as well when we're having stressful days and whatnot. So I think that good relationship and communication with each other just helps.
Yeah, that that's a little bit of personal curiosity for me. But I also think too it is important for people who are interested in surrogacy to hear about successful couples and how they are navigating it together. And, for some people that is something completely foreign, like you said. You are best friends and you have that kind of relationship and partnership. So that's really important. I think that's really crucial and maybe a piece of the surrogacy journey that is not often talked about or just left out because there's so many other moving pieces going on that I imagine that's something that wouldn't really come up first top of mind for somebody interested in this. Maybe kind of as we continue talking about it. You mentioned there were a lot of things that you, Anthony, ended up taking on. As we kind of joking earlier, her third surrogacy journey, she really let you take on a lot more of that. What were some of those physical things that you took on when Sobeida was pregnant and unable to do everything as she was when she's not pregnant?
I would say cleaning. I mean, I like to stay busy anyways, but when I'm falling short, I'm like, he knows. He'll come home and see like certain things aren't done or picked up with the kids, especially my little one. He's a Tasmanian devil, so everywhere he goes, there's a mess that follows. So usually, I'm really good with, I pick up after him just so that there's not a big mess around the house. But if he comes home, he's like, "Oh, okay, I see you got a mess everywhere," and he'll just clean that up. He does a lot of the cooking when I'm pregnant as well because he does know that I like my out to eat food. And I'm not the cleanest eater, but I'm not, I don't eat junk. So he takes on that responsibility as well as making sure like he's cooking dinner and cooking us something healthy, especially because he does work out a lot and he watches his fitness and whatnot. So when I'm pregnant, he makes sure like I'm eating good. And then, same thing with, our kids. If there's something I can't do or make, he's there to do it, take them to their appointments and pick them up from school if they need it. And then we also have 2 dogs as well. So of course, he'll come home and clean up their mess, outside, and he just does pretty much everything. He works and then he comes home and does whatever the house is, whatever I'm falling short on. So, and I think actually that's just like that's pretty normal in our lives as well, because I feel like everything between us,
Yeah,
like
for
we're
sure.
50-50. He doesn't just work and then come home and, the wife does everything. So I think that's also helps too, though, with like the routine that we have. And then also going through a surrogacy pregnancy, he knows, okay, I'm going to do a little more than what I usually do.
It's a lot more effort for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really insightful. And I think hearing the realities of what the your day-to-day life looks like when you're going through that um, is really crucial and another really important piece of this journey that we hear that you need support or there's other aspects of this that obviously you try and screen for as much as you can but you don't really know until you're in it in the day-to-day.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you've figured out how to navigate that both inside of the surrogacy journey bubble but then also just in your day-to-day everyday lives.
Yeah.
So, we've talked a lot about the physical aspects of surrogacy, what that is demanding, especially, and we did touch on the emotional aspects of it in the beginning, but maybe were there any other emotional struggles or challenges that you ran into as the surrogacy journey progressed, kind of separate from those initial fears at the beginning?
For me, her first journey was super smooth. Everything was great. Healthy baby boy. Her second journey, I believe she had a placenta eruption.
Oh, that was my last one.
That was your last one? Oh, that was your last one. I'm sorry. So her journey, she had a medical issue was pretty scary, mentally draining for sure. Pretty much, she got through it. She got through it, and she delivered a healthy baby boy. So everything turned out great. But oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't be wrong. I'm all over the place. I'm getting the second and third journey mixed up. But yeah. So, but yeah, we got through it. But mentally at the time, yeah, it was a scare. It was a scare for sure. So just had to be there for her. Pretty much, it's the only thing I could do, and make sure she goes to her appointments and takes it easy until she gets better. So
Hmm. And how did you navigate that emotionally? You said being there for her and, thankfully everything turned out okay, but in the moment, how did you kind of deal with those fears?
just I went to every appointment for sure, just to make sure she was doing good. So that was pretty much it. Just praying too. I do pray at night for her health first and the baby as well. So just being positive, hopeful.
That's really a good perspective to have on it. And I think, again, I've said this like 100 times, but it speaks to the strength of your relationship. People in those situations, I imagine that that could put a lot of strain on you individually and together. So having those, I guess, you know, maybe coping mechanisms isn't exactly the word I'm looking for, but, ways that you found to help deal with that and showing up to every appointment and being there educational or getting that education. Yeah, again, really speaks to the strength of your relationship and how a successful couple can operate in the surrogacy journey despite possible adversities. As we kind of I guess, maybe kind of wrap up a little bit. I still have a few more questions. If you look back at all of the surrogacy journeys that Sobeida has done, how do you think it has affected your relationship?
I think it actually made us closer. Yeah, just being there for one another, especially to the difficult parts. It brought us together, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same too, because, just I don't know, when you sit and think about, like what you guys are going through, which is a surrogacy process, and you see how supportive and helpful and loving your partner is, during that time of, carrying someone else's baby. It just really, for me, it just really made me feel so much, love for him, and, that, I have a good partner that supports me and, shows he cares and loves me pretty much through, any decision that I make. And then especially, like I said, carrying someone else's baby, it just goes to show how much love he has for me as a person, and how much he cares about me and my health, while going through these journeys, because it is a lot. And like I said, we were fortunate enough to have two journeys that were super smooth, which is why I continued to do a third. And with the little issues I had with the last one and seeing his concern and his worry, that's obviously not something that I wanted to see on him, or, see him go through, as being stressed or worried about me. But just also knowing and seeing like how caring he is, and, how much he is worried about me and my health and whatnot. It did bring us a lot closer, and just kind of made us appreciate each other, just because, with everyday life too, you just never know. And I just kind of feel like, us always being supportive and showing our love to each other and just having a great relationship in general is, always something good. But I think surrogacy has brought us closer, just because, just the support you get, and seeing your partner love you through everything pretty much.
Yeah, seeing her going through the process 3 times and creating families is a true blessing. Like, she's a straight warrior. Like,
I know.
I respect her so much more after each journey, because she just sacrificed her body to create a family, to bring this baby into the world, and that's a true blessing right there. So I could say for sure it made us a lot closer, and I adore this woman. I adore my wife for that. I do. So it's awesome. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. It really, well, I kind of building off what you just said there. It really is an entirely selfless act to be a surrogate mother. Obviously, you get compensated, that is a big piece of it, but giving your body to help somebody else potentially have a family is a enormous ask. There is a lot of people who really can't even fathom doing that, let alone 3 times. But I also think too, having the empathy and the ability to watch somebody you love go through that and support them is also a really big piece, and I think speaks to your empathy as well, Anthony, and how, as you both said, this surrogacy journey has made you both stronger, but also maybe strengthened what was already there and just allowed you both to get to that place where you could see each other go through these things and still come out the other end stronger. So it's really beautiful to hear.
Yeah, it's a big sacrifice for her. Like, and then like you mentioned, the conversation, it does help a lot with our family, with our household. So yeah, all the way around, it's great. It's an awesome thing, and I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome. What is I want to hear both your perspectives on this, but what is one thing that you would want to share with the partner of a potential surrogate mother that you feel like is maybe not something that they would have heard before, or something that surprised you along the way?
I would say just, I mean, for the partner, I mean, and the surrogate, the women that are interested, is just be patient and trust the process. I think the surrogacy process can be a lot. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, you're going to trust the process and be patient, because, the last thing you want to do is, go through the process and stress yourself out over things, that you just don't know, which is why we're here as well. We have a team that, we're always available for anyone, questions, concerns. Same thing with their partners. I always offer, if your partner's not on board and this is something you want to do, I'm always available for, a call, just to give him the education he needs and address any concerns that, they have going forward. Of course, what I say is probably not going to make them be 100% on board, but maybe it'll ease some concerns. But definitely, like I said, my number one is be patient and trust the process pretty much.
Yeah, I would say just, yeah, do your homework. Obviously, do your research together, get all the information you need till you guys feel comfortable moving on. And yeah, it'll be a breeze. It'll be a breeze. And watch the Surrogacy Scoop. Knowledge is power,
There we
for sure.
go.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you for the plug. Very much so appreciate it. I guess maybe my last question is if you could go back in time and tell yourself something before or maybe right when the idea of surrogacy being a part of both of your lives was first coming up, what is something that you would tell your past self?
You want to go first?
As like I said, just now, I think the best thing I can, say and tell myself going into, the process of surrogacy is, like I said, trust the process. I understand that now that I think God's timing is everything. I did have a failed transfer for my second journey, and I just kind of feel like maybe the timeline wasn't God's timeline. And, we pushed us back a month or two. And when we did it the second cycle, it stuck, and I delivered the most beautiful baby boy. And like I said, I still get updates of pictures, thanks to the parents for, keeping me close to them and, whatnot. But I just feel like, be patient and trust the process because I feel like a lot of things is God's timing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yes. Be patient. Don't stress so much on the negative things. Things happen for a reason. So just try to stay positive mentally and just go with it. Things will be all right at the end.
Yeah, I think that is an incredible mission or an incredible, I guess, last statement to leave our audience with today. But before I sign off, I do want to give both of you the final word. Is there anything else that you would want to share with our audience? Again, mostly of people who are interested in maybe being a surrogate or just very early entry level trying to learn about surrogacy in general.
I'd say if you're someone that's looking into it, like I said, just educate yourselves. If you need to look things up, Google's there. And then also, so are we. Any questions, concerns, we're always open to addressing and helping. But of course, make sure you have a good support system and make sure you're 100% on board because, everyone's time is invested into this process, this kind of journey. And, you just got to be 100% in it, with the parents, the agency you decide to go through. Hopefully it's Patriot. And that's it.
Again, thank you both so much for your time and insight today. This was literally like $1 million minute conversation. I feel like we really got so much important insight from both of you today. So again, thank you so much for your time and joining us for the second time, Sobeida, on the Surrogacy Scoop podcast.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. It was great.
Of course. Thank you again, listeners, so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Surrogacy Scoop, and I hope you found value in this meaningful conversation. For all resources mentioned in the episode, or to connect with Patriot Conceptions online, visit the description. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast hosting platform, and share this episode with those in your life who may be interested in getting involved.